Happy Thursday. Hey, Theresa.
Hi, Tanya.
Thank you for being here, my darling. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Mandy Holmes. Good to see you, my love. So welcome to In the Spotlight Live with Tanya Geisler. This is a weekly show. So far, I've done it 3 months consistently. I think we might have missed 1 week. Mandy would correct me on that. I'm looking to shine light on some mega stars that I see in my orbit. And it's we talk about mindset, we talk about what's coming up in business, we talk about what's coming up in leadership. And this week I am so delighted to have my co-star be my dear friend, Theresa Reed, who is not only a leader in the tarot industry, she is my not-so-secret weapon, or one of my not-so-secret weapons. She's just, anyway, really excited for you all to get to experience her in the way that I have had the pleasure of experiencing her. And I will say this, if you are watching us from Facebook, come on over to Crowdcast. That's where we're actually going to be able to see your questions and you can chat along with other participants. And if you're already here on Crowdcast, please be so kind as to make sure that you follow me at least on Crowdcast. Theresa, do you have a Crowdcast account?
I do not have a Crowdcast account, but I think I need to get one.
Follow me and then follow Theresa. When she gets that happening, I'll be all over that. And then press the share button because we're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff, including books and tarot and I don't know what else we're going to talk about. We're going to find out. Welcome, Theresa.
Hi, Tanya. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's totally my delight. Good look, it came in the mail today.
Ooh, I wonder what that is.
Just today, I had the absolute pure joy of getting to have dinner with Theresa in Toronto. Was it 2 weeks ago? It was just, 100%. Folks, if you can get the opportunity to get on a plane, do whatever you need to do to be with your people in real life, there is nothing like breaking bread with people that you suspect that you love, that you've known online for a while, but when you actually get to sit across the table from them, there was no surprises there. It was a really lovely evening. So thank you for that. And
thank you.
Super sweet. Hey, you done wrote a book.
I did.
So many people that are watching now and or in the replay are wanting to write a book. So can you tell us a little bit about your process? And you're going to say process, and I always get that, Canadian, US thing. Tell us a little bit about your process. And of course, you know that I'm always looking at this from the lens of the imposter complex. So any place the imposter complex may have shown up in the process, make sure that you check that off for us.
Right on. Well, for me, I've been writing online. I've been blogging for a long time. So, technically I'm a writer, but I never thought of myself as a writer, not at all. I always think of writers as Stephen King or, people who just devoted their whole lives to writing. So I never really considered myself as one. And when Sounds True approached me about writing a book, I was, first of all, very flattered. Then I was terrified because it's like, can I deliver? Am I going to be smart enough? And I've been at my craft for over 30 years. So it's not like I don't know it, but here's where my imposter syndrome came in right away. Suddenly it's like, oh my God, can I do this? Do I know enough? Am I smart enough? Am I scholarly enough? So I had a tremendous amount of anxiety around it, but I did it anyways. I ended up putting in I have a little bit of an echo on my phone. Do you hear that?
Nope, you sound great to me.
Okay.
Mandy, she's sounding good?
It might just be on my end. But anyhow, so what I ended up doing was I gathered my courage and I put in that proposal anyhow. And they came back, they loved the proposal. And they said, would you consider making it a coloring book? And I thought,
hang on. That's what they came back to you with, was coloring book? Oh, I didn't know
that. With the coloring book idea. And it was interesting because right away I was like, of course I want to do a coloring book, because when I studied yoga teacher training, the thing that I struggled with the most was the whole anatomy thing. And so the only way I could pass the anatomy is I got the anatomy coloring book. And I know for people who study, by the way, I aced that test after using the coloring book. And I know for people who are, oftentimes they come to tarot and they want to learn it. They're very intimidated by the cards and learning all those meanings. So I knew because of my experience with the anatomy coloring book that a coloring book for tarot was a really brilliant idea. So we went ahead and we agreed on the book. And then it was really a matter of me knuckling down and getting the book completed. And that's really what I did. I set aside time every day to really work on the book. I delivered the manuscript. And from there, it was just a whole bunch of editing and ta-da, the book.
So I didn't know that. That's amazing. So first of all, I should have prefaced this by saying my entire calendar is of the entire year, by the way, folks, is there's nothing that I am doing that Theresa has not had an eye on. So I said she was my secret weapon. Okay. So that's for the entire year. When I launched the Academy in the fall, Theresa says, okay. When I'm pitching my book, did you know the first week of August, Theresa says, okay. So from a macro level, Theresa is the real deal, full goods. I'm just seriously in awe of how powerful you are in your work. And then we get this little baby because I don't. So actually, I thought this was so great. Like Jen Loudon, our mutual friend Jen Loudon, she speaks it. She said the very first quote that you have is hers and she's right. The tarot is one of those powerful tools I want to understand, but when I try, I become completely overwhelmed. But Theresa's book is about to change all that. I can color as I take in her lucid, distilled intuition, opening insights and prompts. Give me the crayons. This joyful exploration of a piece of ancient wisdom is truly genius. That's it. She is absolutely nailed it because of my work with you over the years. I have also been dabbling a little bit, freaking myself out, backing up, backing forward, going. But this has actually been, and even today. So I'm just going to tell you this in just a little in real time. What happened today? Theresa and I were having a conversation earlier. I pulled the Hanged Man. I'm never happy to see this because it looks so frightening and I don't know. And then of course, but I also read Theresa's work. So I understand, in theory, I understand that this is about letting things just go. All will work out as it's supposed to. I understand that, because I hear you. I didn't get that until I started actually coloring. And then I'm like, well, because it's really hard to take them seriously with fluorescent pants, right? But there was a different place of being able to access by doing the work of coloring. And I'm not a colorer, like I've told you this before. So there is really something very meditative about it, but there is an access to understanding that is really important and powerful. So anyway, I want to thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. This is a beautiful practice. And there's a depth of wisdom there that I actually, what I'm really trying to say is don't mistake the depth and the power because it's actually really fun, to do. There's such power in this work. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you deeply for that. So when you took though this ancient discipline and applied the coloring lens, was there any imposter complex that showed up in and around that? So we had the writer piece where it showed up, but what about taking this, fusing this ancient with this sort of newer approach? What showed up for you then?
Well, again, the writing thing always brings anxiety, of course, because we have our assumptions around that. But when I was doing that, there were times where I was thinking, what am I doing? I'm going to make some people really mad because, of course, you're taking something that some people want to be very scholarly and uptight about, and I'm really giving it a modern look. And so I knew there would be the risk of that. And of course, that brings, again, a lot of anxiety. Are people going to think I'm a flake? They're going to think I'm too flippant. You know, you get all this stuff that you talk yourself into, which of course turns out to be bogus, because that's not the reaction I got at all. But there were moments where I was really feeling, of course, a little worried about that. You know, my voice is a very modern voice, though. I don't talk in this, you know, fake hoity-toity scholarly thing. What I like to talk about when I talk about anything is practical, straightforward, down-to-earth, modern. So ultimately, I was speaking in my own voice, but then feeling worried about my own voice.
Mm-hmm. But and this is where the imposter complex shows up, because even as you have this proven track record, this is why you are the leader in your industry that you are, because you have always spoken from this very clear place. This is also why, I wasn't sure if we were necessarily going to touch on this, you have as many writers as you do, because you really are at the top of your industry, which is precisely where some people, that's your experience, and you can say more about that, has been the very reason a lot of people don't try to climb too high in their industry. So will you walk us through a little bit of what that's like to have actual writers?
Sure. Well, it's a very frustrating thing because, you know, one of the things I'm very about individuality. That's always really important to me. Be yourself. You know, from the time I was a young kid, I never wanted to be anybody but myself. And that has always been strongly rooted. It's in my core. So when I see somebody copying anybody, not just me, but copying somebody, it really makes me sad, because I feel, what is it that you think is missing in yourself that you need to go there? And also, in some cases, for me, what I found is there are people who are trying to shortcut their way to a certain level. And I think they assume by just taking someone else's work, that is going to make them get where they perceive I am a lot faster, rather than doing the work and doing the internal work and all those things that I've had to do over 30 years to get where I'm at. That's not what they want to do. I think a lot of people who choose that route, they're looking for fast and easy. There is no fast and easy. You know, there may be fast sometimes. Sometimes there's easy, but it's rarely fast and easy together. There's always steps you have to take. There's always lessons you need to learn. And when you actually take those steps and learn those lessons, it really makes your experience and your process so rich. So the whole individuality thing is wonderful, but in my work, when I've come across it, not only has it made me sad, it's also made me really angry, because I put in so much work and effort. I mean, I bust my hump, and to see somebody just decide to come in and use my, you know, web copy as their personal swipe file, it's really frustrating. It's, you know, who does that? And it also makes me upset, because I'm a really big champion for my industry, for my peers. I want them to make it. And I'm always trying to tell them, come on, guys, let's go. Let's make it. I'm going to retire one day. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And so when you come at it from that perspective and then also see someone take your work, it's like, wow, I'm like your friend. Why are you feeling the need to go here? So there's a whole lot of things that I've wrapped up in there. Sadness, fear, anger, all of it. It's not fun. I've had to learn how to get really hardcore on dealing with those people, which is not my nature. My nature is really laid back, and I like to have a good time. So having to issue DMCAs all the time, it's really not fun.
So thank you. That's a lot. That's a lot. And like it's complex. It's all kind of tangled. And so the challenge that I continue to see you coming up against, the challenge, just the awareness that from where I sit, what you keep coming back to is, this is not going to shrink me. This is not going to shrink me. This is not going to shrink me. This is actually just going to make me stronger, because where I see you go, it's like, it must be some kind of disincentive to want to put too much out there, lest it be stolen, which is actually what we mean by biters, by the way, because I thought we were talking about trolls for the longest time. Biters are people that are going to take what's yours. So first person that's watching and saying, right there, why would I want to be at the top of my industry if that's just what's going to happen? Not going to bother, because I'm just fine I'm fine in the middle. I'm just fine in the middle. So what would you have to say for somebody who has a desire to kind of step out, but recognizes that they're going to have that same kind of target on their back? What have you learned?
Well, one thing I have learned, and by the way, I'm in a weird industry. So just getting into this industry takes a lot of guts because you're going to get flack right out the gate.
Right.
People are going to be angry that you're doing it. They're going to think, oh my God, how dare you? So you're going to get so much flack anyways. You have to really have a strong stomach for that. You do. And it's just a weird industry. And then when you start getting up to a certain level, you're going to come across your haters. You're going to come across your biters. And it's really interesting. The meanest hate mail I've ever gotten in my career has never come from clients. It's always come from peers. Think about that for a second. And that's really sad also, again, because I always say I'm a champion for you, so I don't get that. But what I like to think of, I know that can be scary for me who goes into this industry or any industry, to put yourself out there, to think that your peer might do that, or to think that, somebody's going to make you feel awful, or they're going to take your work. But as Steve Maraboli says, new levels, new devils.
Right.
And that's really important. And you have to recognize that every time that you take an evolutionary leap, there's always going to be someone who's threatened by it. They're angry, they're jealous, or they want to take some of it. You can't get distracted by that. You can't. I don't like to focus on the haters. I focus on the lovers.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to be negative, if they're taking a bite, I'm going to make sure that I deal with my business because I want to protect my business. But if they're a hater, if they're negative, I send them as much compassion as I can, because to come from that space, it really is coming from a very, very small space. To want to try to bring somebody else down because you don't feel good about yourself, that's really small thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And for the person who's on the experiencing end of that, send them compassion, but then you've got to tune it out.
Yeah.
You cannot get distracted by that. You just have to realize that this is, again, one of those things that when you get to a certain level, and it's always a sign to me then that you're on the right level. You're on the right path. If you're not getting any of that, that means no one's paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, if they're paying attention enough that they want to steal your work or send you a nasty letter, that's telling you that you're striking a nerve and you're moving up.
Yeah.
And just remember, new levels, new devils. Got to rise above.
I love that. Love it. Because, all my work is all about stepping into a certain role, which is an iterative process that's intended to support you every time you step up to that new level, to be certain. This brings in the comparison. I did a webinar with Lauren Bacon yesterday as one of the attributes of, or one of the behavioral traits of the imposter complex.
Hang on 1 second.
Tarot emergency. Could be. Legit. She gets people calling all the time. I just said tarot emergency.
I always turn that thing off, but yet somehow today I didn't, and that phone will never stop ringing if I don't turn it off.
I just said you get tarot emergencies. I actually believe that you really do. I think that people probably, maybe not. You've got really good boundaries. And that's what I would have to say to anybody who is paying attention. Theresa has built, created, structured, lovingly, wisely, very good boundaries. So there are DMCAs to protect for a reason. There are lots of details that you might, when you get to that level, making sure that your connections are true and in integrity, and that your boundaries are also true and in integrity. Those are equal sides of the same coin and equally important. So yes, beautiful. Okay. So that's really, I hadn't thought about that, about you calling it a weird industry. Mm-hmm. So people starting out in tarot, and do you know what, have you heard me call it tarot? I don't know why I keep doing that.
You can call it either.
Okay. Really?
Oh yeah. Some people call it tarot. Some people call it tarot. Just don't call it tarot like carrot.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's like jalapeno. Okay. So I hadn't thought about it being a very distinct kind of industry. And I guess, a lot of people that are watching and paying attention, they might feel a similar affinity because they might identify as healers. And I think that actually more people than we like to think are actually healers. So when somebody is starting out, and you mentor a lot of newbie tarot readers, for them, what's coming in terms of their imposter complex, what are you seeing them present with the most?
They're afraid someone's going to think they're a fraud. They're afraid someone's going to think they're flaky or weird or, you know, something of that nature. So I think that there is a tremendous amount of anxiety around that because, again, it's an unusual career. Nobody grows up and says, I want to become a tarot reader. You know, people don't want to do that. They don't think of it as a career even. And, you know, I think also you do deal with people who say, well, what's your real job? You know, what do you do when you're working? So there's all that kind of stuff. And on top of it, we also have in our industry, there are people who believe that you shouldn't make a living doing this. Even people who are doing it professionally say that, well, you shouldn't charge for something that's a gift. It's the same thing they tell artists.
What?
Oh, yeah. This is a story I could talk all day on, but it's the same thing people do with artists and musicians. And, you know, my husband and my son are both musicians. My husband's also an artist. My daughter's a writer. They receive that flack too. When you choose a creative career or a mystical career, you also come across that. So a lot of new people who want to get into the industry, they're afraid of charging for their work. They're afraid that they shouldn't charge for their work and should only receive donations. They're afraid of being a fraud. I mean, you really come into this with a whole loaded thing right off the bat. And so just getting people to work through that is sometimes the biggest hurdle that you have to overcome in order to do this for a living. And that's a huge hurdle.
I have literally never heard, in the 10 years that I've been doing this work, I've literally never heard somebody talk about not charging for their work. I've heard people say I shouldn't charge so much, or I should, you know, like we have the pricing conversation a lot. Never actually heard somebody say, oh my gosh.
I've actually gotten into wars with people about this. And it's like, well, what do you think I'm supposed to do? And this is peers. It's not coming from the general public. Although I know there are some people in the general public also who feel the same way. You know, they think it's, you know, that, oh, this is a spiritual gift or something and you shouldn't charge, which is just complete malarkey. The thing that I always say to people like that, and this is what I learned from my son's drum instructor, your readings are always free. It's my time you're paying for. And my time is valuable. My time is valuable.
That's very good. That's very good. Folks, if you have any questions for Theresa, now is a great time to start popping them into the chat or in the questions and answer section. That's bananas to me. I'm just, I like I said, I've never actually heard that. Though I will say this, I was one time, I was invited to speak. I'm trying to be mindful of how I actually named this, at an event for which I felt deeply invested for personal reasons. And I was part of the steering committee. There wasn't a budget for me. And I also didn't need to get paid for that one. Though it was very interesting when the performer came, the musical artist came and was paid. And then I heard one of the steering committee people saying, we'll always pay for artists. And I did have this moment that I thought, as a speaker, there's a way in which it's the same kind of thing. So that's something I need to be exploring a little bit more. But interesting, very, very interesting. So
I also want to say though, as a woman, I think it's very important for women to get paid, ladies.
Yeah.
Really important, and not to like downgrade our pay or think that we shouldn't do it. And that one thing I will say, this is the one gift my father gave me. My father was a workaholic, and my father gave me a very good allowance when I was a child. And even though we didn't have a lot of money growing up, I had the highest allowance in my school because I was a really hardworking kid. You know, my mother was sick. I had to help take care of her. So in the back of my brain, I always knew that my time and my talent should be paid well. And I think it's important for women particularly we have to bust through those glass ceilings, ladies. We have got to say, no, we're not going to be paid less than a man. And so in your industry, whatever you're doing, whether you are working at a chain store or whether you are working in your own business, I'm a firm believer in really getting paid what you're worth and taking no apologies around that.
What is the gender split in your industry?
Mostly all women. It's a female career. This is really dominated by women. So I like to say it's a woman's world. And I would probably guess it would be maybe 70 to 80% women.
Interesting. Okay. What is this? Like really?
Hangman.
Yeah. What's that all about?
Well, first of all, let's take a look at that card. So for everybody who's just looking at it in a real visual way, you notice this gentleman is hanging by 1 foot, right? But if you look at his face, he's completely serene. He's at ease. He's not struggling at all. And the energy around the hanged man is being comfortable with waiting and having faith that no matter what position you're in right now, things are as they need to be. And they're working out in their own divine timing. And I think for most of us, that is a hard spot to be in. The spot where you need to wait, where you can't make a move, where you have to just let the universe sort things out. How many of us really do that well? Really, not many of us. But that's what the hangman is all about. So when that card comes up in a reading, it is always telling you there's something going on that's bigger than you. And you're going to have to wait and let things shake out for a moment and see what this means and trust in the flow, trust in the process, because that process is necessary.
Fine.
Mm-hmm.
So given my work in the imposter complex realm, what's the card that I want to see coming up in a reading?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you the card that should be you.
Okay.
Because I do believe that we all have cards that we embody. And to me, when I think of you, I think of the Empress. And the Empress is the woman who's nurturing. And what are you doing in your work? You are nurturing people. You are helping people to really learn to love themselves. And when you look at the Empress, I'll see if I can find her while we're talking here. When you look at the Empress, she's ripe. I mean, she is ripe and she is abundant and she is open. And she is a woman who is really in her element. That to me is a card of empowerment. Here she is. So now let's take a look at her. So when we think of you, before we talk about the imposter complex, this is you to me. When I think of you, this is you. I mean, she is just everything that is lush and comfortable, and she's comfortable in her skin. I mean, this is just an incredible card. So that's you to me. By the way, a lot of your work is about leadership. And for people who are listening, I went through your course. I love it. It really helped a lot because in my industry, I also do a lot of leadership too. And she's all about leadership. She is the feminine leader. And by the way, dudes, if you're listening, you can be this role too. We can sometimes be in the male form and still be channeling that beautiful, lush energy. But
so hang on a second. I have to practice what I preach and just say thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So here's what I think about when I think about. Can you guess which card I'm going to pick for this?
I want to say the Fool, but I think that's okay.
The card that I would pick that would be about the imposter complex, but I'm showing it from the healthy side, is the Star.
Can you see?
Holy cow. Great tarot minds pull alike.
What?
So here's why the Star. First of all, when you think about the imposter complex, well, what is it about? It's when, again, we reach those new levels and we're out there and we are being seen. And maybe we're getting famous. We're becoming stars. All of a sudden, we're naked in front of the world, or that's how we feel. I mean, think about when you get on stage. When you get on stage, everybody panics and they always tell you to visualize everybody else is naked, right? But that's really what the imposter complex is about. It is about showing up naked as you are and being vulnerable and also being okay with that and saying, here I am. Just like she's doing in this card, here I am. One of the interpretations of the Star is inspiration. And so when we are working in roles where we are becoming leaders, we have to remember that we are here to inspire. It's not us being out there with our ego, like, look at me. It's us saying, look, you can get here too. This is you. This is you. So the Star would be my card for the imposter complex.
So good.
But can I say this is what it feels like, though, for people when they're first going to that level? The Tower.
The Tower. Oh, yeah.
This is what it feels like when you do start rising to a new level. Now, what do you see when you look at this card? Look at the top level.
Yeah.
Of this building. What's happening to it?
It's like big destruction and top getting blown off.
Exactly. When you are reaching a new level, that's how it feels. it feels scary. It feels, I don't belong here. All of those awful things come up. The worst thinking that you can do comes up. But when you lean into that, when you lean into it, you can then get rid of that thinking. You have to lean into those fears, because that's what the tower is all about. We have to lean into those fears. Now, what card follows the tower? Can you guess?
I have to say one thing, because like there's also such a rootedness to the tower, right? Like that's
Yes.
what comes. Okay, all right. I'm getting it.
Yeah, but the tower, we've got to sometimes we have to blow our own top. We have to get out of that stinking thinking. And the only way to do that is by absolutely facing the fear and diving in, even if we don't see what's below us. But the card that follows the tower is,
Oh, I did not know that.
See how these two go together for the imposter syndrome?
Mm-hmm.
We reach the new level, we're freaking out. We lean into it. Now we're showing up and we are inspiring others. We are in our full glory, naked and vulnerable, and it's all beautiful.
Damn, you're gonna make me cry. I don't know why that is. It's really so beautiful and so powerful. And I just people, do you see why I adore this woman? Her wisdom and just the depth. Theresa, we're going to be linking in the show notes. We're going to be linking to you and to your incredible book that I love so much. But where can everybody find you while we have their attention?
They can find me at thetarolady.com. And I'm all over social media. I love Twitter. I'm there as the Tarot Lady. I'm on Instagram as the Tarot Lady. I'm on Facebook as the Tarot Lady. And I put out a lot of free content, including a free card for the day. And the ones I put on Facebook are really meaty. So you get wisdom every day for free.
Yeah, you do get that for free. You are such a hard worker. You are such a ginormous hearted woman. And I just absolutely adore you. Thank you for being here with me today, Theresa. Thank you all for following along and watching. I hope your minds are also blown open a little bit more by Theresa and her deep, deep wisdom. Find her. And if you haven't already followed me on Crowdcast, please do. In 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be co-starring with my friend, Ricardo McRae. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Theresa.
Thank you.